Hello everybody, welcome to this webinar for Flipping Your Classroom. To get started, you can get the slideshow for today at the short link you see at the top of the screen here. It's bit.ly/capital flipped 2020, so it is all caps, flipped 2020, bit.ly/flipped 2020. Put that into your address bar and it'll take you over to the slideshow. There's a bunch of links and there's a few videos in here for you to refer back to. So if you'd like a copy of the slideshow for yourself, that's how to get to it. Don't worry about the sign in here button if you are watching this recording. We'll just skip past that. So welcome everyone. My name's Dan. I'm a technology integration specialist at NeoNet. Here's my email in slide number 2. So after this session, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. And again, if you're watching this recording, don't worry about that sign in here button. All right, and here is our to-do list for today. So we'll start out with the what, why, and how of flipping the classroom. We'll spend about 15-ish minutes there. We'll talk about making your own videos with Screencastify. We'll also go into YouTube and Edpuzzle for video assessments. You may see a theme here. There's a lot about videos when flipping our classroom. We'll also talk about some other helpful tools, and I'll basically break into some suggestions for ways to practice or start thinking about ways to flip your classroom. And then at the end, I'll kind of open it up for any other questions or thoughts. All right, so I always like to start things out with a meme here. And this is kind of the basic idea of a flipped classroom. Let's take the basic teacher-led instruction and have students do that at home, or other fancy word for it, do it asynchronously. We'll talk about those fancy words in just a minute. But that's kind of the crux of a flipped classroom. Now, since I mentioned it, that fancy word is synchronous versus asynchronous, let's talk about the difference real quick. So what is synchronous? What does that mean? So learning or instruction that happens at the same time, meaning in class. Just think of other types of activities that you do in your own teaching that require you to be in person with your kids, meaning live. Of course, if you're doing remote learning or hybrid learning, of course, sometimes you are going to be doing things remotely, but you can still be in class live together through, Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it is. What does asynchronous then mean? Well, of course, that means learning or instruction that doesn't happen at the same time. So things that our kids going to do by themselves at home. And think about what type of activities that you guys do that are already asynchronous. Probably most of you guys will probably think of homework. That's usually the normal thing, right? And so these are a couple of terms that we can think about, and especially it helps out to think about different sorts of technology tools that can really lead you towards using an asynchronous assignment or a synchronous assignment. So of course, like we said, synchronous learning, so our teachers and students are collectively engaging in a learning experience at the same time. And just a few examples here. Of course, you host live video chat classes in Zoom or Google Meet, or of course, once the pandemic's over, hopefully sooner rather than later. When you're in live class, of course, with all your kids in person, and of course you have your lecture slideshows or whatever direct instruction that you're doing. Another good tool is called quizzes, and that's a really good thing for fun quiz games. Great for pre-quizzes and exit tickets. A great thing to get kids kind of warmed up or kind of wrap up a live class. Then you also have online whiteboards or of course your smart boards, and things like Miro or Jamboard or classroomscreen.com. There's a bunch of whiteboards out there that you can use along with your video chat app to do some synchronous learning. Then, of course, Zoom and Google Meet allow teachers to record their video chats, which means students can re-watch live classes and they can kind of re-experience that synchronous learning activities. Then on the other side of the coin, of course, is where we have asynchronous learning. So, of course, students are working independently on the same tasks, which are available at any time, so they can go do them whenever they're ready. And, of course, when we talk about asynchronous, we instantly start to think, okay, well, if it's asynchronous, kids are at home, they're alone, they're doing purely independent work. Well, not necessarily. You can still have kids do collaboration. And for example, you can foster asynchronous collaboration. It kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. You can foster asynchronous collaboration with like a shared Google Doc or a Flipgrid discussion. Just because they're not right next to each other live or even in the same Zoom room or Google Meet room at the same time they can still do collaboration at different times. They can still leave messages for each other and still collaborate, even if they're not talking to each other live at the same time. Then, of course, you can do things like video quizzes with Edpuzzle, or create helpful playlists of videos from YouTube, and just send out like an unlisted link to kids. You, of course, can create your own instructional videos with Screencastify or Loom and post them right onto Google Classroom so students can rewatch lectures, or if you just make like a short instructional video, which we'll talk a lot more about in just a little bit, then kids can just get a summary of the super big important things to know. Then, of course, you can create assessments in like Edulastic or Google Forms. You can even turn on locked mode for Chromebooks, if students have school issued Chromebooks, that is. And you can still get those solid assessments, those solid data points in place asynchronously. Oops, excuse me, sorry about that. So a flipped classroom is a pedagogical model in which the lecture and homework elements of a course are reversed. Okay, that's our kind of our bare bones definition of a flipped classroom. And of course, here's what the picture of a traditional classroom. So a lecture, teachers up at the front of the room giving their lecture, and the homework activities are an extension of the lecture start to practice or go further beyond what they talked about in class. In a flipped lesson, the lecture is done before you come to class, usually through a video. And then the classroom activities are opened up for those extension activities, or for the practice, or for the collaboration. Now I have a quick video for you guys here. And in this quick little video, it talks about how to use a flipped classroom. Kind of gives a nice little model. Plus, it's really cute and kind of funny. And it gives a good example of what a flipped classroom can look like and the benefits of doing it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this little video.
This is a classroom. The teacher stands at the front.
So some get left behind. And while some students learn better by listening, others may learn better by doing. This means that teachers can't always do the best job they can.
Oh, sorry about that. If that audio wasn't working, I'm just going to rewind real quick and make sure it's playing okay. We'll just rewatch that video from the beginning.
This is a classroom. The teacher stands at the front, and the students watch and listen. You'll recognize this because it's probably how you were taught, and how your parents were taught before you. But there are a lot of problems with this approach to teaching. You see, not all students learn at the same speed, so some get left behind. And while some students learn better by listening, others may learn better by doing. This means that teachers can't always do the best job they can. But there is another way. The flipped classroom addresses these problems and makes learning more personal. First, the teacher makes a video that delivers the content they'd usually teach in class. Then they share it online with students who can watch it before the next lesson. This leaves the teacher free to spend class time leading activities that help students apply the knowledge. Students can rewind and rewatch a video as many times as they like and come back to class with questions for the teacher. So keeping up with the class is no longer an issue. Students can access the video at any time using mobile devices, giving them the ability to learn more independently. Instead of sitting and listening, students can spend class time applying knowledge in more practical ways. And teachers are free to spend their time working with students and giving them individual support and attention. The flipped classroom model is already making a difference to students and teachers worldwide, so get involved. Discover more at flippedinstitute.org and become part of the movement. This is a classroom.
All right, so hopefully that video played okay for you guys. If not, again, you can get the slideshow at this link, bit.ly/flipped 2020, all caps, and that was on slide number 9 for you. All right, so now I wanted to talk about Bloom's taxonomy and how it kind of works with the flipped classroom. So I'm sure we all know Bloom's taxonomy. So it's, of course, the whole kind of idea of scaffolding is kind of built into Bloom's, right? When we start out teaching something, we start out at the basic lower levels of Bloom's, where we start with remembering, recalling basic facts and concepts, and as we move up and scaffold more and teach more, and that we have students kind of move up Bloom's taxonomy, where instead of just remembering things, they start to apply information, use information in new situations, or analyze it, or evaluate, and then eventually, hopefully, create something. And now, if we use Bloom's, we can kind of mash it together with a flipped classroom. And the idea is we have something like this, where we have the lecture, teacher-led instruction, the reading, the watching videos. Those kind of lower levels of Bloom's can be done at home or asynchronously. This is the stuff that you're going to flip, right? This is the basic lecture type stuff. And this is the stuff that you can do asynchronously or done at home independently. The higher levels of Bloom's, where you get to collaboration, individualized instruction, project-based learning, where students really master that content, that stuff is going to be, of course, at the top of Bloom's. But of course, this is the stuff that you're going to want to especially do in class, where you, as the facilitator of the content, the facilitator of knowledge here, is able to kind of work almost in a kind of a coaching role, where you're able to guide students along the way and let them create something or let them evaluate, really putting the the reins in their hands. That's kind of the idea. So the basic stuff is what you do at home or asynchronously, and the stuff as you go a little bit higher up the higher Bloom's taxonomy, that's the stuff that you're going to do in person. All right, and then real quick, a quick little difference here between flipped classroom and flipped learning. A flipped classroom is a form of blended learning in which students learn content online by watching video lectures, usually at home, and homework is done in class with teachers and students discussing and solving questions. Teacher interaction with students is more personalized with guidance instead of lecturing, kind of like I just said. Flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides students as they apply the concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. So it's kind of a fine difference between the two, but you can kind of see the overall point here. It's less about the teacher always just simply being the fountain of knowledge and really being the guidance, or really being the kind of the coach in the way. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about how the idea of a flipped classroom started. So back in 2007, two teachers, Jonathan Bergman and Aaron Sams, discovered a software that was in PowerPoint that allows them to record their PowerPoint presentations as videos. And they recorded and posted their live lectures online for students who missed class. And those online lectures became super, super popular. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of benefits to doing that. And here we have a quick little video. This is the video from those two guys. This is from Aaron Sams and John Bergman. And they talk about the basics of flipping a classroom, along with a lot of really good tips. So we'll watch this little video as well.
Here are some tips to overcome some of the hurdles and blunders that we've seen commonly happen as teachers flip their classrooms.
Make sure your students can access the content. We all know that not all students have access to the internet at their home, so you may have to come up with some other solutions. Get some flash drives, check them out to students, burn the video content onto DVDs, or write a grant, get a class set of some sort of digital device that you can check out to your students and they can take home and use that way.
Make sure you teach your students how to watch a video. You say, my kids know how to watch a video. Yes, they know how to watch Spider-Man, but that's not the same as watching an educational video that you've created for them to watch. Ultimately, you're trying to teach them how to interact with the video content in a meaningful way that causes them to reflect and think through what they're being exposed to. I had a conversation with a 6th grade teacher, and he said, I spent 3 weeks teaching my students how to watch a video. He had, little guys, 12-year-olds. I had 16-year-olds. It makes a huge difference based on the maturity of the kids and what they are ready and prepared to learn.
Keep in mind that the length of the videos does matter. Our rule of thumb is 1 to 1.5 minutes per grade level that the students are in. So a 4th grade student, you're talking 4 to 6 minutes max. A 10th grade student, 10 to 15 maximum. Keep it short, and if you need to make more videos that are short, that's better than making fewer videos that are long. Another question that a lot of teachers ask is, what do I do if students show up to my class and they haven't viewed the content? Well, let's be real here. I mean, there are kids who are going to show up to any classroom who haven't done their homework. That's just a reality that we live in as educators. It's really not that different in a flipped classroom, but there are ways that you can safeguard or build in some steps to keep kids engaged while they're viewing the content and that you can use to check to see if they have. We took the low-tech approach. We just wanted to see some notes. Other teachers are embedding these videos onto a web page and embedding like a Google form underneath it to collect some data from the students, having them answer some questions. You could just pose a question in the video themselves and have the students bring the answer to that question as an entrance ticket into class. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can check to see if students actually did their work, and then you as a teacher, as an educator, will just hold them accountable for that.
Ultimately, I think the key is that you hold kids accountable. If they've made the poor choice of not doing the work, then what you're going to do is you're going to take that time and you're going to say, you now have to watch the video in class while the other kids are getting help on the hard stuff.
So some teachers get a little intimidated by this idea of creating their own videos. Really, you don't need a super duper studio. You don't need to worry about high dollar cameras and things like that. But there are a few techniques that you can do to really improve the quality of your stuff. So sit in a room with good lights, have a nice quiet area to work, and don't have a distracting background. Have it something nice and simple. Those are things that you can introduce to help the quality. Another question you should ask yourself is, do I need it to be perfect, or do I need it on Tuesday? So some teachers can get bogged down and try to have everything just perfect, but how many of your actual live lessons in a classroom have been perfect? Probably not very many. We teach naturally, we teach organically, and we speak to our students in a way that's meaningful to them. Make these videos the same way. Just make them effective content delivery tools. Don't worry about trying to make a Hollywood production out of it.
One of the beauties of the flipped class is it's very scalable. You know what? You don't have to flip a class. You could flip one lesson, or you could flip a unit, or you could flip a whole class. It's scalable. So one recommendation we would have for you is maybe you need to start small and figure out what's the best place to flip. If I were to give you a recommendation of what you should flip if you're looking for a lesson, find something that your kids struggle with. I was working with a group of 4th grade teachers, and we were talking about math, and they said, in unison to me, they said, my kids struggle with long division. I said, that's your first flip class video, is long division. So what's the equivalent of long division for you? That's your first lesson to flip.
So to recap, make sure all of your students have access to the content.
Make sure you teach them how to watch the videos.
Build in some safeguards to make sure that all students are actually watching the videos.
Don't feel the need to make your videos perfect.
And don't try to do too much all at once. Take it step by step, take it slow, and before long, you will have flipped your class.
All right, so hopefully that video played okay for you guys. Again, if it didn't come through on slide number 13, that video is embedded for you. All right, as we can kind of see, of course, there's a lot of good stuff that they talked about in that video. They said it way better than I could ever say it about their excellent 5 recommendations for talking about how to get started with flipping a classroom. Now, I just want to talk real quick about just the trend of blended and flipped learning. As you can imagine, this is Google Trends like search results, and it shows over time how much flipped and blended learning have increased over time, and how more and more people are searching for blended and flipped learning, and looking at all of the benefits of doing it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and kind of transition a little bit here and talk about why to flip, as well as some more specifics about how to do it. All right. So some key benefits of flipping the classroom include student accountability, like we saw in the video that we just watched. They answered that question perfectly of, okay, what if a kid doesn't watch the lecture from last night? What are they going to do? Well, then you simply have to watch the video in class while everybody else is getting help with the harder stuff. That, of course, leads to more collaboration. Of course, that opens up more in-class time for that. That, of course, opens up more in-class time for project-based learning. That allows you to have more interactive classroom lessons. It's a lot easier to access and get to those higher level activities as well. A lot of the time when students are doing projects or things like that, they're doing those things at home, and depending on their situation, who knows, they may not have the materials at home or a computer at home or whatever it is to be able to actually do it. So maybe they have to go to the library after school, and that could be a whole another headache, right? And if you have the resources in class, that's a good place to do those extension activities. Of course, then you have increased productivity. You can also have more parental access. A lot of the time, parents asking, "What are you guys doing in class?" The kid can obviously just pull up their video from the lecture and say, "Here, this is exactly what the teacher is having us do." Of course, this also lines up with college and workplace models. You spend a lot of time in college and in the real world working with other people on projects, and kind of forcing a lot more collaboration in the classroom is a good way to get started with that. And of course, it gives kids more time to learn, and like we saw, you can go back and rewatch those lecture videos whenever you need. So, to take that example from the video we just watched, some kids get stuck on long division and they need to rewatch it 5 times before it really clicks. They can do that. Of course, if they're in person with you, they can't rewind you a million times. One, because there's 30 other kids in the room, and two, maybe you're out of time and you have to move to something else, or it's time for recess, or it's time for lunch, or whatever it is. And of course, that opens up more time for independent learning as well. So of course, you can really put the onus on kids to take care of their own learning. Possible obstacles here. So of course, nothing's perfect. So these are other things just to think about. These things do take time to create, of course. So when you're creating these lecture videos, they take time to create, of course. It takes a little bit of teacher training, but hey, that's what today's for. It takes a bit of student training as well, getting them used to what they're supposed to do, especially if you flip a lesson, in the middle of the year. It can be kind of a strange thing. Of course, home internet access is a huge thing. They talked about that in the video as well. If you're able to get them hard drives or burn it onto a DVD, that of course can help. Then, of course, student guidance, like we talked about, students actually participating with those activities, making sure they're actually watching the videos. Then burnout, of course, is always a real thing for teachers, no matter what you do. So that's another thing to think about, is finding a healthy balance. And of course, lack of student commitment, and it may take time depending on your kids. You know them best, for them to get kind of used to this new style of how things are working. Then of course, distractions. Everybody's home life is different, so who knows? Kids might not have time, or they're too distracted to sit there and watch a 10-minute video from their teacher. They don't do normal homework. Why would they watch a video? Well, that's another possibility. Real quick, statistics here on the efficacy and the growth of flipped classrooms. Back in 2012, 48% of teachers flipped at least one lesson, and a couple years later, 2014, it was up to 78% have tried it. 96% of teachers who have flipped a lesson would recommend that to others. 9 out of 10 teachers notice a positive change in student engagement since flipping their classroom. 71% of teachers indicated that grades of their students have improved since implementing a flipped classroom strategy. Here's the source for that, linked on slide number 19 for you. So, of course, the idea is it's growing in popularity, and it is an effective teaching strategy. All right. So now we'll change gears a little bit again here and talk about the big components here of a flipped classroom. Kind of look at the whole, basic framework. So of course, the first thing is video recording. So like we saw in the video from those couple teachers a minute ago, that's kind of the whole crux of this whole of a flipped classroom is teachers creating their own video recordings. Then of course sharing with students, distributing it. What's your strategy for that? Where are students going to be able to go and find their videos? Encouraging student preparedness, getting them used to this new method of how they're supposed to be doing things in class. And then of course it comes down to in-class activities. We freed up some time in class because we don't have to do the lectures in there anymore. What are we going to do there now? Are we still going to have some more extension activities? What type of moving things up in blooms are we going to be doing? Then, of course, feedback. What are we going to do for feedback for if you have some sort of assessment or check for the lecture videos themselves, or if you have feedback, of course, for your in-class higher level activities. So, of course, video is the leading candidate in flipped classroom. It's obviously the easiest thing to do, and of course, it's what kids are used to. Right? So the most consumed media on a device connected to the internet is video. Probably no surprise there. The best way to teach best practices of content while online is to make it educational. Make videos for your students to watch. And of course, as I'm sure you noticed, YouTube is the kids' new TV. Very few kids simply sit down and watch regular cable TV anymore. Few of them watch like Netflix and stuff. A lot of it is just YouTube or Twitch or those different online video platforms. Right? So getting them used to, or kind of adopting things a little bit for them to make it something that fits in with their normal everyday schedule, that's a good thing. All right, so now we'll talk about the kind of the 4 pillars of flipping the classroom. The first one here is a flexible environment. So you want to establish spaces and time frames that permit students to interact and reflect on their learning as needed. Continually observe and monitor students to make adjustments as appropriate. Provide students with different ways to learn content and to demonstrate mastery. Okay. Then we have learning culture. Give students opportunities to engage in meaningful activities without the teacher being central. Goes back to the thing I was saying before. You don't always have to be the fountain of knowledge. Scaffold these activities and make them accessible to all students through differentiation and feedback. Then we have intentional content. Prioritize concepts used in direct instruction for learners to access on their own. Create and/or curate relevant content, typically videos, for your students, and differentiate to make content accessible and relevant to all students. Okay, so as you're putting these videos together, keep in mind all of your students' needs. Sometimes maybe you'll need to make a second video or an additional video where you kind of take a deeper dive into explaining something. When you're posting videos, if you post them on YouTube, most of the time, if the video is short enough, which they usually will be, YouTube will let you have closed captionings that it will automatically make for you. That can make a huge difference. Then we have professional educator. Make yourself available to all students for individual, small group, or class feedback in real time as needed. And again, when you have that time in class opened up where you're kind of really just more floating around, you're not just at the front talking in front of a slideshow, then you can really be floating around the room and checking on kids, especially your kids best. The kids that need help, the ones that are struggling, that's the time that you can really get to them. You can conduct ongoing formative assessments during class time through observation and by recording data to inform future instruction. Collaborate and reflect with other educators and take responsibility for transforming your practice. If you notice things that aren't working quite right, if you're noticing different things in your class, the students aren't working in the way that you were expecting, you can make those adjustments. All right, so now we'll go ahead and transition again here into Screencastify. So the reason we're going to talk about Screencastify here, this is kind of just one of the go-to tools that teachers use in order to create their own instructional videos. This isn't the only one. This is not the only tool that you can use to make your own instructional videos. This one's just kind of a go-to for a lot of teachers. It's super easy to use. It's free unless your school pays for the pro version. Here on slide 27, here's the link to download it. It's just simply a Chrome extension that you can use. And if you're not familiar with Screencastify, it is a software extension for Chrome that allows you to record your screen with audio and video as well. And Screencastify in the free version will let you record your screen tab, webcam, or voice, or all. You can record up to 5 minutes per video in the free version. If you have the pro version, you can make as much time as you like. The video is saved automatically to your Google Drive. It lets you create a shareable link right from there. You can even save it for offline use, and you can drop it right into Google Classroom as well. Okay. Now, if you're looking for other options, one more good option that I would mention real quick here is called Loom, L-O-O-M, loom.com. This is another good screen recorder. They actually have a free version for teachers. They kind of give you like the pro version. So if you just Google for Loom Education, you'll see this page here, loom.com/education, and you can actually get the pro version of Loom for free. You have unlimited recording time. You can make as many videos as you want, and you can also download these as MP4s. So that's just another good option for you. They both work, Screencastify and Loom, both essentially work in the exact same way. Really comes down to just a personal preference. If your school already pays for the pro version of Screencastify, then obviously just use that. If you're looking for something that has more time and you want something free, Loom might be a better option. All right, and so the idea of once you have Screencastify installed, here's all the step-by-step for what to do after installing. I'm not going to run through this too much here, but the idea is after you get either Loom or Screencastify all set up, the idea is you can use these for a bunch of different purposes with regards to using a flipped classroom. And so in this example here, we have lots of different options for ways to use Screencastify, particularly for a flipped classroom. So of course you can use them for lesson starters, where you start a brand new lesson or even a brand new unit, and you start out at the bottom of Bloom's. You start out at the basic stuff, and you just go through your basic lecture in a video. You can simply pull up your slideshow or pull up a whiteboard, a digital whiteboard, do whatever you need to do in Screencastify or Loom to capture it. And then you can make a little video where you are describing, where you're just doing all your regular direct instruction that you would do in class. Okay? And then, of course, but the hugest benefit of that is that kids can get to that whenever they want. They can rewind it, fast forward, get to the parts that they need to see. Then of course you can do it for like motivation. You can also make like Screencastify videos for like class rules and that sort of thing. You can also do some like real world connections, pull in some real examples, like certain things you can't like bring into the classroom. So sometimes it's easier to make videos at home if you need to. You can also do tutorials, of course, like for our science teachers and things like that, or gym teachers. You can also do your tutorials or things that you again normally do live and that require a bit of explanation to go through like step by step of a certain process, whatever it is. And you can get to all of that stuff. So, for example, I remember when I was in I think 10th grade. We were in chemistry class, and before we could start using like beakers and all that stuff, we had to go through this whole like lesson about the proper use of putting on your all this like safety stuff, like right, wearing the eye goggles and washing your hands and using the eye wash station and how to handle all the equipment. All that stuff you can do from a recorded video and have kids watch that, and that kind of again frees up some time in class. And you can still have assessments attached to that to make sure that kids are watching the video and that they learned all those rules. And of course, you can do your traditional lectures, demonstrations, any sort of review. That is another good thing to use to make a Screencastify video out of. That's where, of course, you can, at the end of a unit, you can summarize all that stuff that you talked about over the course of that whole chapter or that whole unit. Okay, and of course, kids can go back and rewatch that review video before the big unit test. Of course, general instructions, any other sorts of class rules or routines, that's another good thing to have as an available video. Here on slide 31, there is an article here from Ditch That Textbook. And this is 24 ways to use Screencastify in class. And we're not going to run through every one, but as you can see on here, there is a ton of different activities. And some of these are like specific, like actual like in-class activity type things that kids can do. Some of them are things like for you to do. So it kind of depends. But anyway, so there's tons of good examples in here. So one's a newscast, so students become like a news anchor and deliver like a current events activity. Moving paper manipulatives, like you just using your webcam. Whiteboard explainer videos, a virtual tour, a sub-lesson plan, and some animation, an interview, instructional videos, recording your class, verbal feedback, reading test instructions. You can app smash it with like Wakelet and Edpuzzle, teaching routines, dubbing a video. Obviously, there's a ton of different stuff in here. I'm not going to read through every single thing, but of course, this is just a great little starter pack of a bunch of different ways to use Screencastify in class. All right, and here are just a couple more examples of different ways other teachers have made their own videos for their own class. I'll show just a couple little clips of these things real quick.
Welcome, this is Amanda O'Mara, and this is a video tutorial of how to create a narration track in a Windows Live Movie Maker video file. I've already captured a video using my iPad, so to import the video from my device, I need to open up the internal storage device and locate my video. And I know it was the last thing I created, so I can just click on it and then drag and drop it to my video project folder that I have here on the desktop. And it'll take just a few seconds for the file to move. Once that file's been moved over, I can close out the file viewer and then open up Windows Movie Maker.
Hi, so I've decided to do a model for the screencast, and I hope this helps kind of make the expectations and the purpose of this assignment clear. The goal is to draft talk our way through an annotation and passage, and as we do that, make our train of thought visible in order to help us as we go write the actual CTA. So I've selected a passage from chapter 1.
This is a guided tour of Cellscape, a journey inside of a human cell. For the coolest experience, view this video in a VR headset. If you don't have a headset, you can still explore the environment if you watch this in Google Chrome or on the YouTube. Had something called a cell. So what is a cell? Cells are like tiny blocks that build living things. Dogs, plants, fish, you name it. They're all made of cells. Almost everything in your body is made of cells. Your heart is made of cells, and your lungs, and your skin, and your nerves. Your body is made of about 40 trillion cells. They're really small. We're in the middle of...
All right, So those couple little video clips, so we're not gonna sit here and watch all three of them here, but they're just a couple of good little examples of different videos that were used for different purposes. So the first one that we looked at, that one was a good little like step-by-step tutorial of how to do, like in this case, it was looking for a certain file, right? So that's good for like a technology class or showing students a sequence of how to do a certain thing. Then the second one, this is like kind of more specific to like an ELA class, talking about students would be writing a paper and they are kind of using a video to talk about their thought process. And then the third one was a little bit even more interesting. This one was a 3D video. Of course, a Screencastify doesn't do 3D videos, but you can pull in a 3D video from YouTube and have students watch that as well. If you want more ideas, here again on slide 32, there's even more ideas on this page for you that just kind of list, oh, that page is down. Oh, bummer. Well, ignore that. Sorry about that. All right, so general tips here on making videos. Some of the stuff will be repeated from the video we watched earlier, but still worth mentioning. So of course, teach students how to watch educational videos. Physically where to go to watch them, getting them used to how to watch them, as well as getting them used to the mindset of there's going to be some sort of knowledge check in here somewhere. Like they said in the video, they may be required to take notes. They may have a question that you ask them in the middle of the video. There may be like an attached Google form for them to do. You may drop the video in Edpuzzle. So you have all these different options to get kids used to interacting with these interactive educational videos. And like they said in the video earlier, about a minute to a minute and a half per grade level. So again, if you have a fourth grader, 4 to 6 minutes per video. If you have an eighth grader, 8 to 12 minutes, and so on and so forth. Again, like they said, if you have a bigger concept to get through, split the video into smaller pieces. If you have a big concept to talk about, it's going to take you 20 minutes to get through. Don't make a single 20-minute video. It's better to make 4 or 5-minute videos. That would be a lot better, especially for a fourth grader. If they're sitting there and they see a 20-minute video, it's going to be overwhelming a lot of the time, especially if there's a lot of information. Okay, and again, like they said in the video earlier, try to cut down on distractions as much as you possibly can. You're not a Hollywood director, you don't have to have a soundstage or anything, but try to limit distractions as much as possible. Try to cut down on the dog barking and background noise and the lawnmower and all that stuff. You want to have good lighting so people can see you. Have your webcam on when you're making your own videos, especially like with Screencastify or Loom. Kids are gonna still want to see you. Of course, when I'm doing these webinars, I'm recording my webcam as well. Avoid perfection. Again, you're not a Hollywood director. You don't have to, make it seem perfect. Speak clearly and slowly. Allow for pausing. That's something I'm bad at. I often try to talk fast and then I stumble and stutter all over the place. But that's something to work on. And as you go, do this stuff more often, it'll get a little bit easier. One other thing to mention as well, if you're doing this alone and you're just making a video by yourself, it feels really silly at first, but I'll tell you right now, I'm alone making this video for you, and you get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. You feel weird at first, but after a while, it's fine. And of course, like they said in the video as well, start small and start short. You can flip one single lesson, pick that one lesson that kids usually struggle with, give that a try in flipping it, and then you can grow from there. All right, and then once we have these videos made, what do we do with them? So then, of course, what you can do with them is share those videos to watch for homework. You can post them in your Google Classroom. That's probably going to be the main way to do it, posting them on your LMS so kids can get to them. Your class blog, website, drive folder, flash drive, DVD, or any other easily accessible location. Now, one thing before we go into verifying how they watch, I want to show one little process here that can make things a lot easier, particularly for putting all your videos in one place in Google Classroom. Okay, so the idea is, if you end up doing a lot of recorded lectures and you end up flipping several lessons, and you want to make all those videos available for kids to watch whenever, or if they're supposed to do them for homework or whatever, you can imagine your Google Classroom can get pretty cluttered pretty quick. And so what we can do is we can actually create a drive folder that houses all of our lecture flipped videos and make that whole folder available for kids all in one spot. So let me take you through that whole process real quick. So I'm going to go over to my Google Drive to start off with here. And I'll just use my Screencastify folder for example. Let's just say, for example, I have in my Screencastify folder, you of course can see I have a bunch of videos sitting in here in my Screencastify folder. And the idea is I want to take these videos and make them all available in Google Classroom for my kids to get to whenever they want. Okay, so what I can do is, you may notice I already have some folders sitting up here. And of course I can I'll just kind of run through this whole process here. So let's go ahead and make a new folder. And maybe I'll say, I'll call this one lecture videos. Or maybe I'll call it homework videos. That sounds less scary. Homework videos sounds less scary. Homework videos, that sounds less scary. Let's do that one. So we'll call it homework videos, and we'll pick and choose whatever videos that we want. I'll just kind of arbitrarily grab these videos here. And I'll go ahead and drag them into my homework videos folder. If you ever, as a total side note here, if you ever want to grab more than one item in Google Drive, if you click on one, hold Shift, and then click on the last one that you want to be included, notice all those ones that have been highlighted are going to be included. If you want to pick and choose, if you click on the first one, then hold Control on your keyboard, then you can pick and choose which items are going to be included there. They don't have to be like in a row right after each other. And then you'll just simply click and drag on any one of the videos or items that you highlighted, and then we can drag it onto whatever folder that we like. Alright, so now we have this homework videos folder full of all these different homework videos, and these are all the, maybe the lecture videos that I made for kids for all of my different flipped lessons. To make things easier, maybe it's not a bad idea to rename some of these to like a date or to the name of the assignment or something like that, so they're easy to find. So once we're ready though, and I want to take this whole folder of homework videos, I want to take this whole folder and go and put it right in Google Classroom so it's easy to get to. So all we have to do is click on this little drop down for this video, or I'm sorry, for this folder rather, and click on this Get Link option. And we'll go ahead and change the permissions here so anybody in my organization can look at these videos. I'll copy that link. Then we're going to go ahead and jump into Google Classroom. And I'll jump into my Google Classroom here. I'll go into classwork. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a material. And the idea is I'm going to create a material and I'm going to put the link for this whole Google Drive folder in here. Alright, so I'll call this, I'll just call it the same thing, homework videos. Maybe in the description I'll say, click the link below to see all of our recorded homework videos. Then we'll go down to the add button below, and we'll click on link. Then we'll simply just paste in that link that we got from Google Drive. There's that folder there, and we can pick and choose which of our classrooms this is going to show up for, which of our students this is going to show up for. Maybe I'll even create a topic for it. And I'll go ahead and post. Now we have this topic, we have this this little folder sitting here all in one nice clean spot for kids to get to. So that way when a kid comes into the Google Classroom and you told them for homework you need to go and watch the homework video for X, Y, and Z, they'll simply click on here, go find the video. You could even post the video separately as well, maybe right above it. That's another thing you could also do. So maybe, for example, I wanted them to watch, this lecture video here, and if I want to just have them watch this individual video, and so what I can do is just grab the shareable link just for this specific video, go ahead and copy that link, and then we can go ahead and make another material, and maybe we'll say, I'll put the date here, so October 21st homework video. Go ahead under add, and we'll drop in this link. You could have also grabbed the video from your Google Drive from here. You could have just gone to Google Drive as well and just searched for this video. I could have also done it this way. So if I can find my video, it's in here somewhere. There it is. Oh, I already had it attached. Duh. Google Drive. There we go, lecture video, and go ahead and drop it in that way. You can also you can grab the shareable link, or you could just search for it if it's already sitting in your Google Drive. Okay, and that way you can have that in the same spot under the same topic as your whole group of homework videos, but then this one's just sitting by itself, so kids know, okay, here's our October 21st homework video for us to do, and here's all of the homework videos as well. And then once kids are done with that video, we can just simply get rid of it, delete that, and then drop in the video that they need to watch for October 22nd. Okay, that way you can have all the videos in one nice clean spot for kids to get to. Okay. All right, so then the next big topic, of course, is to talk about how can we verify that kids are actually watching the videos, right? So there's a couple of different things you can do. One, you can put the video in a Google form and drop in some questions. You can require notes from the students in Docs. You can put a question in the video itself. You can put a code word in the video that kind of just works as an entrance ticket. The point is you can hold students accountable in various different ways. Of course, you can have rewards or games for watching. Of course, we'll talk about Edpuzzle more in just a little bit for like in-video questions. You're going to be able to tell who doesn't watch. So for example, if you want to use the Google Form example, I believe this one should work here. And so, of course, you have something very simple like this, where you have the embedded video, and then you have tell me one thing that you learned from this video. Or you can have more specific questions, of course, whatever you like. And so let's go ahead and take a look at how you make one of these video quizzes in Google Forms. So let's go ahead and start a Google form. I'll use my little handy shortcut here, forms.new, to make a brand new Google form. And from here, I'll even call this one, I'll call this one October 21st video homework. And if we want to drop in a video, we'll go and find this add video button. And we'll pull in a video from YouTube. Notice this does have to be posted on YouTube in order to be dropped into a Google form. So you have a couple options here. You can either obviously just go get a YouTube video that you did not make, and you can just go and pull it in from here. If you want to make your own video and then have it show up in a Google form like this, you can simply post that video to YouTube. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. And then you can, of course, embed it in here. The other thing that you can also do is you can simply leave them the link to the video. Let's say it's in Screencastify that you made for them, or you left it sitting in Google Classroom like we did over here. So you have a couple different options. So of course you can give them directions for however you want. So if, for example, maybe I simply want them to go watch this October 21st homework video that's in our Google Classroom, and then answer a couple of questions in this Google form. When I after I put my name of the assignment right in the form description, I can just simply tell them that. I can say watch the October 21st homework video in our Google Classroom. Then answer the following questions. Okay. And then, of course, you can drop in your questions just like normal. Now, if you want to pull in a video that you made, again, if you want to have the video embedded right in the Google form, it has to be uploaded to YouTube first. So again, let me show you how to do that real quick. So let me go ahead and jump over to YouTube. And let me go and actually grab a video real quick. So here's this old Screencastify video, this lecture video that I did before. Let me go ahead and download this. I can't remember offhand if YouTube will accept a WebM file, but we're gonna find out real quick. And so whenever you're ready, as long as you have a channel created, if you don't have a channel created on YouTube, make sure to click on your profile picture and then go ahead and set up your channel. But then once you're ready, you can go to that little camera plus icon here, and we do upload video. And we'll go ahead and upload that video that we just got. There we go, there's our lecture video. And of course, you can put in whatever description that you want, any titles, and if you do a couple things, you can get your a custom thumbnail if you want. You don't really, I mean, you don't have to go crazy with it, honestly. You can add it to a playlist if you need to. If you're going to have a full-on YouTube channel that you want to do, you can mess with all that stuff. For our purposes, we won't worry about that too much. So simply all we have to really do is upload the video, give it a title. I'll just call this one October 21st. Homework video. And then I don't need to do any of this other stuff. I'll say, actually, yes, it is made for kids. We'll click on next. We don't have to do anything from this screen. Click on next again. Now, once we get over to visibility, best thing to choose here is making sure it is set to unlisted. This means anyone with a link can watch your video, but it's not going to be searchable on YouTube. So if somebody searches for the name of this video, it's never going to show up. It's unlisted. Okay, you have to actually give somebody the link in order to watch the video. All right, so again, for this purpose, probably best to have it set to be unlisted. All right, and then once we are ready, we'll go ahead and click on save. And now this video is all set. I'll just copy this link. We'll go back up to our Google form, and we'll go ahead and embed our YouTube video. We have the URL, so we'll go ahead and paste that in there. And go ahead and click on select. And there we go, just like that. Now we have our lecture video that we made sitting here in our Google form. And of course, we can make it a little bit bigger if we like. We can give it a title up here. I'll say, watch this video and answer the following questions. Okay, and then of course you can even make this a video quiz. You can set correct answers, all that same stuff that you can normally do for a Google form quiz. All right. So that was the Google form route. So of course that's a good way to go down to verify students watch. You can also require notes from students in docs, and then they simply turn in their notes. You can also do that through Classroom pretty simply. So if you create a assignment, and I'll just call this October 21st video homework notes. And I'll say write at least 10 bullet points of notes in a Google Doc and submit here.
Here's something from Google.
Sorry, my Google Assistant went off. And submit here. Okay. In this case, I don't have to add anything. The kids are going to create their own Google Doc to turn in. I'll set which classroom, which students this is going to go to, however many points I want to give. So maybe this is just a little 5-point thing. Set my due date. So this is going to be due tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And we can maybe even make a new topic. Call that video notes. And we'll go ahead and assign. And now just like that, we have another topic, we have another assignment sitting here for video notes. And again, the idea is students would simply turn in their video notes. I could also attach in the video as part of the assignment as well. So if I wanted to, I could also add in from YouTube or add in the video right from my Google Drive. Since I have the URL already copied here, I'll just paste this on here. And I can also paste in the video that way. Update that. That way I have the video attached to the same assignment. So that's another way that you can verify that kids are watching. So again, very simple way to do it. Give them a little bit of parameters saying write at least X amount of bullet points, or take this many notes, or put in whatever kind of parameters that you want. Then you have the video attached there already. Kids simply watch the video, take their notes, turn it in, boom, they're done. All right, you can also put a question in the video itself. So as you are recording the video, like somewhere in the middle of the video, you can kind of basically just stop what you're doing and stop what you're talking about and ask a question and say, this is the question that you guys are going to write down on a piece of paper and turn in to me tomorrow. Again, you can also put it into a Google form if you want to, and you can just ask a question right in the video as you're recording it and have them say, this is your entrance ticket video question. Tomorrow morning when you come into class, have a half piece of paper ready and turn that into me as soon as you walk in. Very simple way to verify that kids have watched. You can also do a code word in the video. Same kind of idea. Somewhere in the middle of the video, you say some sort of word that's a code word. So you say, Alexander Hamilton, and then that's the code word that kids use as an entrance ticket as well. Okay. And of course, you can put in some sort of games and rewards for watching. And we'll talk more about Edpuzzle in just a second. So of course, students can use videos themselves. Students can use videos to show understanding, create a tutorial explaining concepts, create content for classmates, explain stuff in a different way. Videos are a great way to hit on those higher levels of Bloom's where kids are showing what they have learned. Of course, again, they can add content to other projects, create some interesting projects. So for example here, a couple of kind of basic examples here. So maybe like for a second grade class where you're talking about exploring the seasons. The homework activity is watching this 2 to 3 minute video explaining the characteristics of each season. And then the activity that we do in class is students use a video to complete a poster of the seasons. In 5th grade, multiplication, that you're working on multiplication. Homework is watching a video from Khan Academy on multiplication. And then in class together, the teacher assigns groups a word problem, and then the teacher just simply floats around the room. And that's where you can really dive in and help kids, and you have a lot more time. It's a lot less pressure, especially if you have shorter class periods, where you have to pack in so much stuff because you have to get all the basics done and then do the extension activity. And this can save you a whole bunch of time. And then bump it up even further, go to a 9th grade American history class. For homework, have students watch a snippet of the musical Hamilton. And then as part of homework as well, they watch a lecture about the Revolutionary War. You can kind of combine multiple things together for those older kids. Then the activity is students rewrite history to a hip hop beat. And they kind of collaborate and kind of have some fun in class, kind of doing that expansion activity from what they saw the night before. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll come back and do YouTube. So sit tight, and we'll get right back. All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and keep on going here. So, next big topic here is talking about YouTube and how you can use it for a flipped classroom or a flipped lesson. All right, so first big question, of course, is why use YouTube? So, one, of course, students are more engaged through visually stimulating videos and presentations. Probably no big surprise there. Educational lessons are easily shared across the globe. Videos can supplement lessons for students. Teachers can spend more time focusing on students and less time explaining complex topics. And teachers will have a library of free information to help explain just about anything. Then the next question, of course, is how to use it. So, of course, you can find relevant videos and share them around. You can trigger an interesting discussion, provide context in the real world, engage visual learners. Video infographics introduce a lot of information in a short amount of time. You don't have to send, this is kind of just another good big thing to think about is don't send your kids to just to youtube.com and tell them to search for the name of the video. Never do that. That's not going to work out smoothly. So what you always want to do is give them the exact web address, or even better, go and embed the video for them. If you embed the video right inside of a Google slideshow, if you embed it in a Google form, if you put the YouTube video right inside of Classroom, it's going to be embedded right there. There's not going to be any ads, and there's not going to be any other suggested videos. Another good platform, another good website here is called Video Notes. It's a great way to keep video notes. It timestamps every time you type in a video note. Let me go ahead and jump in here. Let me make sure that it is still up. Last I checked, they were back up, but I could be wrong. Let me see. They actually may have been closed off. They have, which is a bummer. Essentially, the idea was this website allowed you to do a timestamp every time that you put in a note. On one side of the screen would be the video itself, and on the right side of the screen there would just be a place for you to type, and every time you started typing it would drop a timestamp in there for you. It's a bummer that that website has now at least moved or been shut down. Well, ignore that one, sorry about that. Then, of course, we'll talk about how to curate it. So, of course, you can make a playlist for multiple videos. Let's start there real quick. So, let's say, for example, let me go ahead and jump over to YouTube. If I can spell it right. And let's go ahead and jump in. And let's say we want to, maybe we have a history class, and let's say we're talking about the Great Depression. And let's do Great Depression Explained. And let's say we want to use a video. I always like those crash course videos. These are always really good. So just taking this example here. Right after you find a video, now of course you want to vet it first. Watch it at least most of the way through. Watch all the important parts, and find once you watch through it and say, okay, this is a good video, I like it. What we can do is we can go ahead and go to this little save button below the video, and we can go ahead and save it to a playlist. You can see I have a bunch of playlists already here, but I'll go ahead and create a new one at the bottom. And we can go ahead and drop in a name, so I'll call this Great Depression Videos. And then for the privacy, again, if it's things you're sharing with your students, if it's things that are going to be generally using like for school purposes, I generally tell people to stick with the unlisted option. So I'll put in the name of the playlist, make it unlisted, and I'll go ahead and click on create. And then I can go find any more videos, like this one's a good one too.
In the world of
Watch
finance,
this one and say, okay, yeah, this one looks really good too. Again, I'll go down to the share button, the save button rather, below the video. And from here, we'll go ahead and add that to my Great Depression videos playlist. It gives you this little confirmation down at the bottom, and then we're good to go. We can keep on looking. Let's go ahead and just add one more.
From December 2007 to June 2000.
And if this video looks good too, we'll go ahead and save this one as well. Drop it in that playlist. You can also add the same video to multiple different playlists as well. Alright, now, once you have a playlist saved, then the next question is, how do I get to it? Well, we just go up to our hamburger menu up in the top left, and we'll go find our library. From inside of the library, we'll see all of our history, but if we scroll down a little bit, we're going to see all of our playlists. And from here, we'll just look through and find the playlist that we want. And so where's my, I don't see mine, so I have to go into the show more button here. And where are you? There you are. Great Depression videos. Perfect. And if I want to go and share this video with students, I can click on this button here called View Full Playlist. And this is the kind of like the landing page. Oops, sorry about that. This is the kind of like the landing page that we want kids to get to when we're sharing this whole playlist full of videos. So again, if you have multiple videos you want to show or give kids all at once, make a YouTube playlist. It's a really good route to go down. So once you have the playlist made, we can go over and click on this little share button over here on the side. This will share the whole playlist. And we can simply copy that link. You can also embed it, so you can also go and put it on a website or class blog if you use that. But for our purposes, I'll just copy that link, and maybe I'll go put this on my Google Classroom so kids can get to it nice and easily. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to Classroom again. And maybe I'll go ahead and add something new. Go ahead and add a new material. I'll call this Great Depression videos. I'll go ahead and add a link, and I'll just simply drop in this link. And then again, maybe I'll put it under the homework videos topic that I made earlier. And there we go, just like that, I have these videos all stacked up nicely again, all in one spot for kids to get to. Of course, I could put in that video playlist if they're all for one assignment. I could also just drop it in along with an assignment, put it wherever I want. Now, if you make your own videos and you upload them to YouTube, you can also add them to any playlist. So in this example, all 3 videos that I have in here were made by other YouTube channels. This one was made by Crash Course, this one was made by The Plain Bagel, and this one was made by the History Channel. If I make my own videos and upload them to YouTube, I can also add them to this playlist. To do that, I'll go find any of the videos that I've made. So I'll click on my little profile picture up in the top right. I'll go and click on Your Channel. Here's all of our videos. Now, notice the video that we uploaded earlier, it isn't showing up, remember, because I had that one be unlisted. If I want to go find that video in particular, if I click on my profile picture again, I'll go into YouTube Studio this time. And this will open up all of our videos that we've created in YouTube. And this time, over on the left-hand side, we'll click on Videos. And we'll go find the video that we want. So here's this October 21st homework video. And from there, if we go into Details, clicking on that little pencil, from here we'll go and find the option for adding this to a playlist. So about halfway down the page on the right-hand side, we have this playlist drop-down. So if I want to add this to my Great Depression videos, that's how we can do it. Again, the only reason I had to go this far, the reason I had to go into the YouTube Studio here to find this video, is because I had this video set to unlisted. That way it was kind of harder to find. If you made it public, it would be sitting right there on your channel. But if you made them unlisted, that's just a little extra step that you have to do. But it's pretty easy to get to. Once we're done, we just simply click Save in the top, and then we're good. We're good to go back. Let me go ahead and jump back to our channel. And now, if we go over to our playlists, I can view that full playlist, and there we go. There's my October 21st homework video. Again, if students want to go into class, let me make sure I have students in this fake class here? I do. Okay, so Betty's in that class. And if students want to come in and look at their that playlist of videos, they'll jump into Classroom, see this link, and there we go. This is the student's perspective of what this kid will see when she comes in and looks at this playlist of videos. So it includes the ones that other channels have made and the one that I made. Okay. So that's how you can use playlists. So we'll skip over video notes. Unfortunately, that website isn't a thing anymore. You can, of course, embed videos right into Google Slides or in Google Forms like we talked about earlier. If you want to do that for a Google Slide, let me talk about that real quick. Let me go ahead and make a new Google Slide. Now, the reason you may want to have a Google Slide included is if you have like an already existing slideshow and you just want to have a video included there as well. So that's another thing you could do. You could even have a slideshow and then a video of you basically narrating the slideshow for them, so they could have the video and the slideshow all in one file. Another reason you may want to use Google Slides is if you want to trim down a video that's on YouTube already. So let's say, for example, let me go ahead and grab this this crash course.
Hi, I'm John Green. This is Crash Course U.S. History, and Herbert Hoover's here, which is never a good sign. Today we're going to return to two of my favorite topics.
There you go.
Economics
Sorry,
and
John,
inaccurate name.
Pausing. All right, anyway, so we're going to grab this URL. That's all I'm trying to get to. And it's freezing up on me here. And so what we're going to do is copy that link for that video that we want, and then we're going to go ahead under the Insert tab in our in our slide rather, go under Video, and we'll just drop in that URL here. And we'll drop in this video right into the slideshow. And the couple of benefits of doing this is, one, that allows, that takes away any ads and any other suggested videos, and this allows us to trim the video if we like. So over on the right hand side, this is where we can trim the video, have it start a little bit later or have it end a little bit sooner. Okay, so maybe if I don't need the first 5 minutes of the video, I can simply just type that in and have it start at 5 minutes in. I can even have it end earlier, so maybe I don't need it to the last few minutes. I can also maybe click on this button here that says Use Current Time, and it'll end a little bit sooner. So if you need to easily trim down a YouTube video, that's another way that you can do it. And again, you can have this sitting right here on your regular slideshows that you're using, and then of course you can distribute out the slideshow for kids to get to whenever they need. Alright, you can also, again, create your own channel, and you just simply don't enable any ads for all the YouTube items that you put on there. You can also put videos on a Google site, of course, or any other blog site that you want. Legally, you cannot download videos, but you can simply give them a link. Just be careful about, of course, vetting the videos beforehand. Okay, and we'll talk more about Edpuzzle in just a second. So the next question is, what videos are best to use? So of course, ones that are clear, have a good pace of content, that are relevant to the student and the subject matter, ones that are interesting to watch. It's not, a total snooze fest. A lot of the ones that have good humor, particularly like I said, I'm a big fan of the Crash Course videos because they're funny. They actually have some funny jokes in there. They talk a little bit too fast sometimes, I'll definitely say that, but they're still really good videos. Ones that are interactive too, especially for younger kids. A lot of the videos will pause and ask some sort of question during the video. Ones that have good lighting, high quality graphics, good audio, no distracting content or ads. And you'll notice a lot of the stuff here that we're talking about is stuff that's made by like professional YouTube channels. So a lot of the stuff that you find on here is going to be more than you have time to actually go and do. So a lot of the time you're going to find some really high quality stuff that you can share with your students. Best ways to use it in the classroom, hooks and discussion starters. These different ones are a couple of different examples of different ways to get kids interested. This one's like a drone video. Using a drone video when talking about volcanoes. So you can really jump into something really interesting. You can have them obviously be discussion starters, extension opportunities. So if we boot this up here. So this one also talks about, this is just kind of like this kind of the kind of videos where they actually have you start to think and ask questions. And again, this is the type of thing that you can have some questions sprinkled into the video, and you have them actually do some sort of assessment or notes or something to prove that they watched. Exam review using as instruction for an assignment. You can also record yourself teaching and have students watch. That's another obvious way to do it. And then, of course, you can make a playlist of lessons for students to review. Here on slide 44, there's a bunch of examples here of some of the best educational YouTube channels. We're obviously not going to run through all of these here, but this is a good little starter pack. These run across all the different subject areas. And of course, whenever you're watching these, always give them a vet beforehand. One, to make sure it's what you're actually needing them to actually talk about. It matches with the content you're trying to talk about. It's appropriate for your kids. So again, always just kind of preview through this stuff. All right, so our next topic here is Edpuzzle. So if you've never used Edpuzzle before, the whole idea is it's a website that lets you take a video and make a video quiz out of it. And the idea is kids would watch the video, and at certain points that you designate, this video will pause, and then a question will pop up, and the kid has to answer a question in order to continue. And the cool thing is you can prevent them from fast forwarding through the video too. We'll talk about all that stuff here in just a second. All right. So again, here's just kind of the overview. And let's go ahead and jump into Edpuzzle here. So I'm going to jump over to edpuzzle.com. And when you come in, you can do a Google sign-in. It's free to use. There's a free version and a paid version. Pretty much the only difference between the free and the paid version is the paid version lets you have unlimited space. In the free version, you can only do 20 videos saved to your library at once, which is still not bad. You can simply just delete the ones that you don't need and then make them available. You can basically just remake them later if you have to. All right, and then simply pretty much what you have to do is you'll simply search for whatever you want to talk about. So maybe I'll search for Hamilton. And whenever I search for anything on Edpuzzle here, we'll pull up a bunch of different videos. Some videos will have questions already attached to them and some won't. The way to tell is if it has this little bulb here. So this one right here has 9 questions already attached to it. And the one like next to it here, this one doesn't have any bulbs, so there's no questions attached to it. If you scroll down, you'll see all the different options that they give you here. If you don't find a video that you like from here, you can still go in and pull in a video from YouTube. Again, you simply just go and search on YouTube just like normal. And you just search for whatever you like. So, I'll just do Great Depression Explained. And we'll maybe grab this one here. And we'll copy this link. And we can just simply paste this link right in Edpuzzle, that little search bar up in the top left, and from here this lets us start to make a video quiz from this video. Okay, we can even trim the video down if we need to, just like we saw over in Google Slides. We can have it start at a later time and or end at an earlier time. Okay. Under the voiceover option, depending on where the video comes from, you may be able to do a voiceover. Essentially, it cuts off the audio from the original video and lets you talk over it. You can also have questions. This is where the whole point of Edpuzzle here. You can create multiple choice, open-ended or open-ended questions. You can also create notes they're not questions themselves. They're just basically like pop-ups. And you can have some sort of note in here just to remind kids to pay attention to something, so on and so forth. All right, so let me go ahead and show you this video. I'm just going to trim it down so it's nice and easy to get through here, just as an example. And let's go ahead and make some questions. So all you have to really do is simply watch the video.
People are taking out loans to invest even.
And I'll have this video play for me, rather.
Your wash machine are becoming hot commodities.
And,
And hey, since things are looking pretty good, the banks are giving out loans to everybody, meaning that even more people.
Then I'll pause it at whatever point that I want, and then I'll go ahead and drop in a question at that point. So let's say, for example, I want to drop in a multiple choice question. So then this question, this video is about the Great Depression. So why did the banks fail? Something like that. People's money was spent without insurance. And we can put in another choice. Maybe we'll say, banks burn down. And of course, for multiple choice questions, we can set the right and wrong answers, either just from the little green check mark or from the red X. You can have more choices by going to this little drop down there. Then once you're ready, we simply click save, and the video will continue playing. And again, we simply keep on watching.
All of this is making companies very rich.
We'll pause the video again at whatever point that we want. Click on maybe an open-ended question for this one. I'll say, how much does the FDIC insure? Okay, and again, we simply continue going on.
And the average American is making good money.
And we'll fast forward a little bit.
Soon enough, everyone thinks they're 1920s Warren Buffett.
And we'll pause it again, and maybe at this point we want to have a note. And again, notes aren't really questions; they're just like a pop-up. A good way to remind kids to pay attention to what the speaker is about to say, or kind of you can drop in a little picture. You can even do a little voice narration from this little microphone icon. I'll just say, think about what he just said. Okay. And then once we have all the questions that we want in here, you can put as many questions as you'd like. Then once you're ready, you can go ahead and click finish up in the top right. We can review the video. This is exactly what the kids will see. They'll simply click play.
Recent inventions like the vacuum cleaner.
They'll simply click play. We'll wait for the first question to come up. And notice right at that point in the video, it automatically paused. I did not click pause. It automatically pauses for me. A question pops up. I'll answer my question and keep on going. I'll fast forward a little bit just so we get to the next question. And again, the next question, again, it automatically pauses. We'll put in our answer. Click submit. And of course, for your open-ended question, you can't have those auto-graded, unfortunately, so you can only auto-grade the multiple choice questions, but it's pretty easy to grade. We'll take a look at grading in just a little bit. And this is exactly what the finished video would look like. All right, so then once we are ready, if this looks all good, we'll simply go down to the Assign button down in the bottom right. And from here, we'll be able to pick any of our classrooms. Now, if this is your first time in Edpuzzle, you won't have all these classrooms sitting here. You can import a class by clicking on Add New Class, and you can either create one, or you can import a class from Google Classroom. That'll pull in the whole roster of students from your Google Classroom, and then they'll be able to join into the class. All right. And so I'll put this in my Google Classroom. Over on the right hand side, I can set my start and due date. So maybe for the due date, maybe I'll make it on Friday and click save. Then this is where we can turn on this ability here to prevent students from being able to fast forward. So this is probably a thing you'll always want to turn on. This will stop kids from being able to fast forward just through the whole video and just jump right to the questions just to take a guess. They actually have to sit there and watch the video. You can even turn on closed captionings if you like as well. And you have this option here. If you are doing this from a Google Classroom, you can also have this post right to your Google Classroom for you. Then we'll go ahead and click on Assign. And once we're ready here, we'll get all of our students to go in and watch the video. And once the kids watch the video, you'll come back to this page and click on the student's name, and you'll be able to see how they answered. And you can see, of course, those short answer questions will simply pop up here, and you'll be able to grade them just like that. And again, you could do these videos, you can do these video quizzes for videos that other people have made that put them onto YouTube, or you can even make video quizzes out of your own Screencastify or Loom videos that you've made yourself. So let me show you how to do that real quick. So back from Edpuzzle homepage here, what we'll do is we'll make sure we're under the My Content section over on the left-hand side. Then we're going to go under Add Content, and we just do Upload a Video, and we can either pull a file from our Google Drive or choose a file that's downloaded on our computer. I'll just pull from Google Drive here. And we're going to go find that video. So maybe I'll search for that lecture video that I had earlier. There we go, that's the one. Go ahead and drop that in. It'll upload right into Edpuzzle. And then once it's uploaded, let me just use a different example while that one's uploading here. Like this one over here, this Loom tutorial, that's another video I used Loom to create. The process will be exactly the same. You can just simply click on the video, and then over on the right hand side we'll go into Edit, and this takes us through that exact same process that we did earlier to drop in those questions or trim down the video for whatever we want. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the video was one that you just found on YouTube or it's one that you made yourself, you can make an Edpuzzle quiz out of it. Okay. Quick couple of things about Google Classroom. We kind of talked about Google Classroom kind of on and off a little bit here today. So a couple of other little things to mention. So of course, your Google Classroom, or pretty much whatever LMS that you use, if you use Canvas or Schoology, whatever, this is a really good spot just as a digital meeting space for homework. It's going to be a really good place to post all your content, perfect for online discussions and help, and just a good way to distribute out whatever you need, particularly those videos that you want your kids to watch. What and why of Classroom here? So of course, let it be paperless, easy way to collect homework. You can get to it from any device that has internet. It's an easy and safe place to get to. Again, you can get to all of those, any resources that you put into your classroom will also be accessible from your Google Drive. All that stuff will be backed up there. So I just want to make this point real quick. If you maybe teach only like semester-long classes, or you just teach the same class year after year, you won't have to be remaking all these resources over and over again. You can simply do a reuse post. Let me show you this real quick. So if you, let me go into this classroom here. So as you notice, this is a quarter, it says My Classroom Quarter 2. And let's say, for example, maybe I teach the same class, it's only a quarter long class. And what I want to do is go and reuse like a post that I've done in my quarter 1 class. That way I don't have to recreate the whole assignment or video, whatever it is. So all I have to do is go under the Classwork tab, click on Create, and go into Reuse Post, and then I can go and pull from any other class. So here's my quarter 1 class of the same class. And let's say, for example, we're doing the same, class notes material here. We'll go ahead and click on Reuse, and this will drop in that whole same folder here. So in this case, I had a whole Google Drive folder full of all of our class notes. This folder also could be a whole video folder like we did earlier. And again, we simply will drop it into our Google Classroom, putting it under whatever topic that we want, and it's still going to be available here. Maybe if I want to just move this under my homework videos one, maybe I don't even need that topic. And that way, I can just pull in whatever I need just like that. I don't have to go digging through Google Drive to go find it. Just simply going into Reuse Post, I can pull anything from any of my old classrooms, even if they're archived classrooms. That's another reason you really have no reason to permanently delete any of your Google Classrooms. Okay, but simply doing that, it makes things a whole lot easier, especially if you teach the same class every semester or every year. And plus, if you continue doing the flipped model, you'll have a backlog of all these video lectures that you've done. And again, if you teach the same class next semester or next year, you can just pull in those videos. You don't have to remake the videos again. They're still there. As long as they're still relevant and still good to use, you can just pull them into the new year. Quick little tips here as far as classroom and other stuff goes here. It's always best if you use Chrome. If you want to see your revision history, you can make templates in advance. Lots of classes and assignments consider naming conventions, either by date or by the name of the topic or something like that. It's just to keep things organized, depending on how how many kids or different topics or classes that you teach. It's a good idea to have a class material for a syllabus, rules, rubrics, etc. There's a mobile app for Google Classroom that's really, really awesome, surprisingly. You can pretty much do all the same stuff that you can do on the regular web version. You can share any type of document, not just Google stuff. You can easily put in whatever you want. It doesn't have to be, a Google Doc or slide or form. It could be a PDF. It could be a video file. You could share a Photoshop file. It could be pretty much anything. Manage cheating by making questions hard to simply Google the answer to. That's kind of just always a tricky thing, especially for remote learning and asynchronous learning. What's stopping kids from, looking at a quiz and just simply Googling for the answers? Well, nothing. That's something you can't really stop. And then here on slide 51, there's also other uses here for Google Classroom. Other ways that you can flip with Google. So of course you can use Google Meet for all of your hybrid and or remote learning. All these other things here are linked for you in different ways to use Google things in particular. Real quick, we'll go into Google Forms for assessments. We kind of touched on this already when we were talking about ways to verify that students watched the videos. But of course, the whole point of a Google form is to collect responses back, either in the form of a poll/survey or a quiz. And so of course Google Forms allows you to create a form that people can interact with, and of course you can use it for a good old-fashioned poll survey or an actual dedicated quiz. And both of those things you can use, that's kind of where they come in nicely for that asynchronous bit, right? The stuff that kids are going to be doing at home or independently, that's a good way to kind of drop in that low-level assessment. You can also use forms for daily check-ins, warm-up activities, peer evaluation, sign-up sheets, assessments, quizzes. You can also use forms for homework submissions, of course dropping them right in through Classroom. Here on slide 55, there's 80 more ideas for ways to use Google Forms. Of course, Google Forms is very versatile, so even if you're not doing a flipped lesson, still a useful tool. We won't go too deep into this for how to create a quiz. Basically, all you have to do is go into settings and change a button that says make this a quiz, and then you'll be able to set answer key and point values. And again, when you combine that with your lesson videos, that's a really good way to get that the kind of basic instruction, basic assessment out of the way. So again, the in-class stuff is where you really get into the higher level stuff. Okay. And of course, settings are important. Setting up all of your appropriate settings, particularly making sure only people in your domain can get in, making sure if you allow them to submit more than one response, they can do that if they want. If you're going to make it into a quiz, think about are they going to see their responses right away? Now, particularly for a flipped classroom, if you make a Google Form quiz and you set it to release the grade immediately after submission, kind of like we see here. If you set that to release automatically, you may be effectively giving kids an answer key that they could easily go and share with their friends, and that could kind of skip past the safety net of letting kids, of ensuring kids that they're watching the video. Okay, so generally what you will probably want to do if you're making a Google Form quiz, especially if it's like applying to a flipped video lesson, make it a quiz. You probably set the release grade option to later after manual review, and then probably turn off these other 3 little checkbox options here. Okay, the reason for that, again, is kids are going to be doing these quizzes at different times. If a kid comes in, does their video like they're supposed to, and they get let's just say they get all the right answers, and if you let them see their grade, they're going to know, oh, I got everything right. I know what I said. I can easily go and share this with my friends in the class, and then none of the other kids are going to have to actually watch the video. Okay, so you generally are going to want to be careful about that. You can set some defaults under preferences, so like if you want all those things to be turned off the way I just said, you can set that under preferences. If you go to the little 3 dots next to your profile picture and go down to preferences, you can change some of that stuff there. All right, then of course I'm not going to go too deep into Google Forms. I have another PD video on our YouTube channel all about Google Forms, so you can check that out if you like. But basically, you can make questions of various different types. A couple of things real quick when creating the quiz, though, just a couple little tips. There is not a name box, so it's a really, really good idea to make the first question simply called name, and then make it required. If you have it set to be a quiz, probably just make it worth 0 points, and that way students have to put in their name in order to do the rest of the assignment. And that way, when you go in to look how students responded, you're going to be able to tell who said what. Because if you forget to collect email addresses, and if you forget to make your first question name, you're going to have no idea who responded, whose answers are whose. Okay, there aren't numbers for questions unless you make them. You have the option to shuffle question order if you'd like. You can use pictures as answers. You can insert videos like we saw earlier. Again, you can't really block them from Googling something. If your students are on school-issued Chromebooks, then you can turn on locked mode, but every kid has to be using a school-issued Chromebook in order to take the form in that case. Of course, nothing stops them from using another computer or using their smartphone to simply Google an answer. Help your students make questions required, so they can't leave any questions blank. And of course, you can go over results in class together. Always be careful about your settings. Some questions won't give you answer keys. Only the checkbox, multiple choice, and short answer question types will let you put in an answer key. The other types you can use as a form quiz, but that you won't be able to put in an answer key, so you have to grade them manually, which isn't that big of a deal, honestly. And there's always other things. Again, just as you use them more, you'll learn more things. And of course, you can feel free to reach out if you have any questions. All right, and then once it comes to grading, that's a pretty easy thing to do. You can simply turn off access to the quiz. Let me show you how to do that actually real quick. Let me jump in here. If you are done accepting responses from students, like you don't want them to take any more or turn in any more assignments, If you're done letting them do responses, you just go into the responses tab for that quiz, and we just flip off this little button here for not accepting responses. Okay. Excuse me. All right, coming down to the end here, there's not too much left here. There's other helpful tools out there. Of course, the stuff we went over today is not the end all be all. But again, there's so many tools out there. There's an extension called Save to Drive that lets you save a web page as an image, so you can share online articles without having to rely on links. The Insert Learning extension adds questions or notes directly to a web page. Play Pause it works very much just like Edpuzzle. It's another video quiz website. Works pretty much exactly the same. We talked about other video recorders. Flipgrid's another great one for doing a flipped lesson. And then it comes down to start thinking about how you can flip your own classroom or flip a lesson. So, of course, this is a recorded session here, but something just to think about. Think about how you could flip a lesson. You can flip a lesson that you have coming up, or kind of retool an old one, and try to plan for an instructional video or a reading, an assessment based on that video or reading, and a higher level extension activity that you're going to do in class. I have a couple examples here, a couple of links rather, for how you can organize your thoughts. Since this is a recording, you don't have to worry about these, but this example here is this flipped lesson brainstorm activity here. If you feel like it, you can absolutely use this. This will be here for you. And basically this little graphic organizer here is a way for you to kind of plot out how you can flip a lesson. Of course, if you're just watching this recording, you don't have to do this, of course. But it's kind of a nice way to visualize and kind of think out how it would change. A couple of little bits here for flipped classroom. Some misconceptions. It's not a buzzword. It's not going to fade. It's not something that's an all or nothing, like we talked about way earlier today. It's something that's scalable. Start small. You can scale it up and go as drop it in when you need. It's a misconception that you have to use video. You don't have to. There's a misconception that you have to either make the video or you have to be in the video. You don't have to. You can find a video that serves the same purpose. You don't have to be a tech expert. It doesn't take any much different time. You're just doing the same prep, just kind of flipped. And the misconception that students aren't going to like it. Kids, personally, I think what kids don't like about school most of the time is it's boring. I'm sitting there staring at a PowerPoint for 45 minutes. Well, if we change that, that can help out. Final questions here to ask yourself. How can I organize my content? How do I motivate students and make them accountable? How do I make sure they have time at home for the content? How do I create student-centered learning activities for in-class work? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So these questions are obviously are rhetorical questions, but they're things to think about, and just kind of questions to ask yourself. And here's lots of different resources here for basically the whole flipped instruction community, and different lessons learned from other people that have done this, and lots of good information. This video here on slide 67, this one's longer. It's like 20 minutes long, so I'm not going to show it here today. But if you'd like to watch this video, it's on slide 67, and this guy is a physics teacher, and he goes through the whole kind of process of of flipping a classroom. In this case, for a physics class. And to end here, we'll watch this last little video from John Bergman that we saw earlier, and he's talking about what is flipped learning, and he kind of goes into some of the benefits, and this kind of will be a nice way to wrap up for today.
If you walked into a flipped classroom, you're going to see kids actively involved in their learning. If it's science, they might be doing experiments. It's a foods class, they're going to be making foods, having conversations with each other. They're getting more help from their teacher. The teacher's going to be walking around and helping their students. You've seen these things before, but if you will, the magic of the flipped classroom is there's going to be more time for those things. My work in flipped learning started in 2006, 2007, when Erin Sams and I were having a conversation with our Assistant Director of Curriculum Instruction. She came down and she said, I love it that you guys are recording your lessons for your kids. And she says, my daughter has her professor recording her lessons, and she loves it. And then she said these words. These are the words that sort of changed everything for us. She said, my daughter loves it because she doesn't have to go to class anymore. We then said, what if instead of our students getting the content in class, what if they got it outside of class, and then they did their classwork at home, and that's how we started flipping our classes. What most people think when they think of flipped, we are calling in our books Flipped Class 101, where all the students watch the same video on Tuesday night, and on Wednesday do the same activity. I really want to challenge teachers to not just do Flipped Class 101. If you're just doing videos and worksheets, then you're missing the point. Give them projects, design inquiry experiences. Those are the things where the magic will really, really happen. What is the best use of your face-to-face class time? I would argue it's not you standing up in front of your students and yakking at them. It's something else. Now, what does that look like? Well, it looks very different in a English class than in a math class. Teachers are just so stuck in the front of the room, whether chalkboard, whiteboard, PowerPoint, whatever it is. When you move the direct instruction, many people think of it as the lecture, to the individual space. And then it transforms the classroom into an active place where students are applying and analyzing and creating. And it does seem cheesy. You're going to make this little video on how to add fractions or on the Revolutionary War, but the flipped classroom is not about the videos. It's about the active, engaged things you can now do in class because of the videos. The biggest question I'm ever asked by teachers is, oh, my kids won't watch the video. So one often used strategy is if the kids don't watch the video, then you have them watch them in the class. Hold kids accountable for their actions. While the other kids are getting help and working in these problem-solving groups or whatever it might be, they're going to still have to get the content. So our kids said, wait a second. So Mr. Bergman, if I don't watch the video, I have to watch it in class. Yeah, you do. And all my friends are going to get help on all their assignments, and I have to take it home. Yeah, that's right. Oh, it would actually be easier if I actually did the lesson at home. Yeah, that would be good. And most of our kids quickly learn. So one thing that I find teachers do wrong when they first flip their class is they use video resources found on the internet. Not to say that those other resources aren't good. I'm sure they are. I don't want kids to watch a video. I want kids to interact with learning content. The efficacy of a flipped classroom is greatly enhanced if the teacher is the creator of the content. And if you can build in interaction into these, it greatly enhances the learning experience for the students. I like to say it puts like a layer on top of it. And so what happens is you can take your video, and as it's playing, you as the teacher, this is before they're going to watch it, you can say at 1 minute, pause the video, and a question will pop up, and the students then respond to the question. And it's tracking them. It knows who they are, and then how much of the video they watched. When they know you're kind of looking over their shoulder, so to speak, and knowing what they're doing, they'll actually do it. Once you've created a video, you got to make it accessible to your kids, and there's lots of ways to do that. Another myth in the flipped classroom is this whole issue of access. The studies say now 95% of kids in the United States have access to the internet at home. You don't make a decision based on 5% of your kids. You have an intervention for those kids. There's ways to get around that. A lot of teachers are uploading, frankly, to YouTube. So if YouTube is not blocked, and I know that's not always the case, but if YouTube is not blocked, I'm a fan of YouTube because every device any kid's going to have access to will play a YouTube video. The reality is flipped class is a gateway to those deeper learning strategies that we've been talking about teachers using for a long, long time, and let's be honest, they're not using them. The entry point for a flipped classroom is not to flip a class, but to flip a lesson. As your very first lesson, I would recommend you answer this question. What is something that you find yourself repeating over and over and over again? Over and over and over again. Flip that lesson. In the 2007-2008 school year, Aaron Sams and I had made a commitment to completely pre-record all of our lectures. That first year, we made 100 videos in one class and 67 in another class. We began to see our students taking more ownership for their learning. We saw kids were actually, their performance on our tests that we had given for years increased significantly, actually 1 standard deviation. And then we saw kids interested and engaged. This just makes sense. You know, there was a quote from one young man, and he said, "Finally, somebody who teaches the way I learn."
All right, everybody. So that's going to bring us down to the end here. Figured we end it with that perfect video summarizing all about flipped learning. So we looked at the what, why, and how of flipping the classroom, making your own videos with Screencastify, YouTube, and Edpuzzle, other tools, and kind of a little bit of kind of thought-provoking time, I suppose. But with that said, that's going to bring us down to the end. Again, you can get this slideshow at bit.ly/capital-flipped2020, all caps, to get this slideshow if you like. And that will bring us down to the end here. If you have any other questions, you can shoot me an email. Here's my Twitter handles, so feel free to reach out that way. There's also a survey on this last slide as well. Don't worry about this sign in here button if you're watching this recording, so no worries about that. But with that said, I'll go ahead and end up the session for today, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.